Okay, sorry for that. I had a power outage, and if you could again answer the question about your major and what is it specifically that you do, okay?
Yeah, I'm more focused on like the business side of things as opposed to the engineering side. And so what I really liked about the major is how broad it was and how many different types of classes I got to take. But in regards to it, I can do pretty much anything that I want. And so yeah, that was a big draw to it.
Okay, and do you see yourself in the future doing what you majored in, or are you so focused on sports right now that it's only basketball that counts for the next, let's say, 7, 10 years, whatever?
Right. Yeah, I definitely want to play as long as I can. But I think once I'm done playing, then my major definitely sets me up to get a job, whether it's in that field or not. I'm not sure, but I think that it prepares me either way, and so I don't think I'll have too many problems with that.
Okay. And when you entered Stanford, you entered a system developed by a legendary coach, Coach Van der Veer. And how intimidating was it to play for such a respected and revered coach?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was too intimidating, to be honest. I think that, like, especially going into my freshman summer, my teammates were all the older veterans on the team were all super supportive of us as freshmen, and they really helped us, like in practices and everything. So I never felt intimidated by Tara, or any of the coaches. They all did, they did a great job in helping us integrate into the school, and everything. And so it was honestly, it was a pretty good transition for me from high school to the college level.
And the age gap between you as young people entering maturity and your coach was around 40 years, right? Even more, I think. How did she manage to get through to you guys, like young women? And so you and your teammates, how did she use any, I don't want to use the word tricks, but how did she find a way to connect with you as people, not only as players, but as people?
Um, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that was her main focus. It always felt, and I actually liked this. It felt like basketball was like just basketball, and so like, I never felt like, I don't know, it didn't really cross over into my like school or like personal life that much, which was good for me, I think. And so I think that Tara's like she would hire younger coaches, and that was sort of meant to like bridge that kind of gap. But also, I don't really think it was an issue. Sometimes there was a disconnect, but it wasn't anything that I don't know. It wasn't awful.
Yeah, yeah. Not suggesting that it was awful, clearly. And what do you remember about that 2021 championship team? What made that team special and that roster special?
Yeah, I think that whole year was the COVID season, and so as a team, we really went through a lot together. There was a stretch of 10 weeks where we were living on the road, like straight. We are living out of one suitcase and literally just going from one hotel to the next, and we were playing games. And so that period of time, I think, really brought us together because well, like the alternative would have been it like making it harder for us, isolating ourselves. But we spent more time as a team than I had any other year. So we got super close because of those circumstances. And so I just think we were lucky in that sense. And also we used each other to kind of get through it. And so that put us in the best position possible to win in the end.
Okay. And are you still close with some of the players? Or
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. That championship game against Arizona, you enter as clear favorites and you open up quite strong, right? You win, I think, 16-8 the first quarter, but the Wildcats keep getting like closer and closer. They claw and claw. And how did you manage to stay in that game and keep that lead, which eventually ended up being a 1 point lead? So you win that game by just 1 point.
That was a long time ago. I
Yeah.
honestly I don't know the specifics of the game. I remember we won by two and like they missed a shot or something like that. Um, but I think that, you know, we play so much basketball, so we've been in those situations so many times. And so like there were definitely some things that went in our favor. And we got like less. There are some aspects of luck involved for sure, but when you're in a close game like that, you just have to stay focused. And you're not thinking about after, you're thinking about in the moment. And then, once, the clock finally hits zero and, you win, it's like that's when you get to, experience that.
Yeah, you also had a good game. I think I remember it was like 8 points, 7 rebounds, or 7 rebounds, 10 points, something like that. But you don't remember that, or do you remember something about your performance personally?
Not in that game. I do remember, I think it was the Elite Eight game, against Louisville. That was probably one of the funnest games that we'd played in all season. And we were down by like 14 points, I think, and ended up winning. So that one I remember pretty well.
Okay, and I want to ask you also because in your college career, as a freshman, you actually played more minutes than in later stages, right, of your college career. So, what happened during those years that you saw your minutes diminish?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. It wasn't up to me, obviously. If it
Mhm.
were, played as much as I can. Yeah, so like I was really grateful, or I had a really good opportunity my freshman year to get a lot of minutes just because some of the older players they were dealing with like injuries and stuff like that. And so as freshmen, we got a lot of experience early on. And I think that really carried over into my sophomore year where we ended up winning the national championship. And then after that, I mean, it was never up to me. It was just a matter of the coach's choices. We had 17 people on our roster my junior year. And so there was a lot more rotations and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and you still ended up being drafted like 34th overall, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
And how did it feel to get drafted? Like,
Uh,
how does it
was
feel, Can, where were you when you learned that you were drafted? Did you know that you were going to get picked by the Sun?
um yeah, it was an incredible feeling. I had spoken to the Sun prior to the draft, but it was one of those things where you never know for sure until you actually hear your name called. And so hearing that was honest, like one of the best experiences ever. And like, it was just so exciting because I didn't know what was going to happen. And so it was definitely very validating. And yeah, I was super grateful about that.
Okay. And do you remember anything from that training camp that you had with the team in Connecticut?
Yeah, for sure. That was another incredible experience. The vets in Connecticut were all super great and they were very helpful to all of the rookies coming in. And so I felt like I learned a lot right away in those 2 weeks. And yeah, it's definitely a goal of mine in the future.
Yeah, and looking at your stats in Australia, I mean, 16 points, 8 rebounds, almost 2 blocks per game. And even when you played your first game in Hungary, right? 15 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. It's hard to believe that you didn't get more minutes in college. Is there something different about playing for the pros? Or did something happen during those 2 years that sort of elevated your game?
I think it's just it's a different level. And also in college, you have, I don't know, this. different focus. Like as a professional, that's my job is to go and perform. And in college, it's not like I think I learned that having a good game isn't all about scoring or other things. There are other aspects that you can do individually to impact a game, like your defense, rebounding, and stuff like that. And so um, those were like big takeaways for me in college. And then going to the professional level, it's a different game, and my job is to perform. And so that's more of the difference than anything else.
Okay. Uh, can you tell me and our listeners and viewers, hopefully, about life in Budapest?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great city. Budapest is awesome. And there's so much to do, and I really like that aspect of it. I love to explore and just honestly wander around and like see what else I like discover. But yeah, I really like my teammates out here, and it's a great city, and so highly recommend if you get the chance to visit.
Okay. And how does your typical day look like in the city?
Um, yeah, so we practice twice a day, usually 9:30 in the mornings. And so I'll go to practice or I'll eat breakfast, I'll go to practice. And then after practice, we get lunch provided by the nearby university. And so we'll go eat lunch. And then I have usually a couple hours to kill for our evening practice, which is at 6:30. And so usually I'm just hanging out, take a nap or whatever, and then go to practice. And so those days aren't super exciting, but on off days, I usually try and get into the city center and walk around, try new restaurants, just, there's different like shops and like events going on. And so I try to get involved in those things as much as I can.
Okay, and in what place that you lived in, the food was the best? Since you I mean, who doesn't like to eat, right? So, in what place that you've been in, like the food was the best? Australia, France, New Zealand, or
Um,
Budapest.
the food here is definitely really good. And it's really nice having that meal provided during the day. So I would have to say Budapest. But um, Australia also, Melbourne has really good food. And there's just, I love trying like the foods in different cultures. France is obviously, also has really good food and it's just different. So that's been one of my favorite things about each place is getting to try those new things and like experience different cultures in that way. But
Okay.
right now, the Hungarian food is the best.
Okay, and how does it compare to the food in Colorado? I'm guessing that home cooking is the best cooking, right? So how
Uh,
does it stack up against like the food that you had in Colorado?
well, my parents are both really good cooks. My mom has written several cookbooks, and so when I'm at home, I eat really well. But in regards to like act like the food scene in Colorado,
Mhm.
everywhere I've been is better. Um,
Okay, okay,
which I can't get out here, but yeah.
okay. The last question I have is, so you said that you want to return to the WNBA, right? Did you, so I wanted to ask you what's next for you. So what's next for you is probably returning one day to the WNBA, or not returning, but getting the chance to finally play in a regular season game.
Right.
Right. And were there any, did any like teams or coaches contact you up until this point?
Um, well, so right now, like, I'm focused on my season out here in
Mhm.
Hungary. And in regards to what's next, those opportunities will come a little bit later. So I don't know. That's one thing about playing basketball is you don't know, until like it happens. But like you mentioned, WNBA is definitely a goal of mine. Whether that's next year or in the next couple. I just want to prepare myself in every way possible. And so that starts with my season out here. Um, and then also at some point I do need an off season, so we'll see when that happens. But yeah, and so my agent does a great job of connected me to different teams and coaches and stuff like that. So she's always looking out for me, and so she'll help me, make that decision when the time comes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for finding the time, even
Yeah.
though it's still kind of early, right? Is it this gloomy in Hungary as it is here in Poland? Because it's pretty gray and rainy.
Yes, it
Is it?
is
Yeah.
raining today, so it's not looking too great outside, but
Okay. But you guys didn't have any floods in Hungary like we did in Poland, or did you?
did,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Okay.
The Danube River was all flooded, and it's been a thing, but it hasn't affected me personally,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, we have those in Poland as well. Okay, so thank you for finding the time to talk, and I hope that we will get a chance to talk once you make it to the WNBA. You will also find the time, and we will talk about your WNBA experiences in the future as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.